Welcome to episode 3 of the Inside Pitch. I am Zach, also known as the Show Noob, which is my main YouTube channel. This is a podcast I do by myself that I enjoy doing, all about baseball. Last episode, we did a little bit of a preview of the AL Central. And this episode, we're going to do the preview of the AL East. What are they looking like? But first, I found an article on MLB.com that I was very, very interested in. Is 15 pitchers who could win a Cy Young Award in 2025. They chose 5 guys from the American League, 5 guys from the National League, and then 5 dark horse candidates. And I haven't gotten very deep into the dark horse candidates on this article, but there are some guys that are not such surprising choices in each league, but there are some very surprising choices, in my opinion, that they chose in this article. But let's just go ahead and go through it. The American League favorites, their number one choice is Tarik Skubal, which is very, very, very obvious. Maybe not obvious, but it's very understandable. He just won the Cy Young last year. He's 28 years old. He had a Triple Crown campaign, and he just did incredible. There's really, what can you say about Tarik Skubal? It looks like he's going to be doing this for quite some time. He had a hell of a year. Almost 200 innings pitched. He was an all-star. Cy Young, like we said. He finished 7th in MVP voting, led the league in FIP, 228 Ks and 192 innings, 2.39 ERA, 18-4 record. If you like the record, 6.3 WAR. Very, very, very impressive season from Skubal. I think he can definitely do it again. It sucks that he just didn't really do it in the playoffs. He gave out that big homer to Lane Thomas, but who knows, maybe the Tigers can get back there this year and he can sort of dominate the playoffs. We'll see. I think he can absolutely win it again next year. Number 2, they have Cole Ragans for the Royals. He finished 4th last year and second lefty on the list already. I really, really like Cole Ragans. I'm lucky that I live in Kansas City, so I've gotten to see him pitch in person, and the dude is nasty. The Royals got him in a trade from the Texas Rangers for Aroldis Chapman, and talk about a winning trade for the Royals. My goodness. Ragans is going to be good for a long time. And if we're being honest, the Rangers won that trade as well. They won the Cy Young that year, but I can't help to think like, man, what could Cole Ragans add to that Texas Rangers team? But anyway, Cole Ragans was a reliever in Texas, and when he came over, he immediately went to a starting role, and all he did in 2023 was go 12 starts with a 2.64 ERA, 71 2/3 innings pitched, 89 strikeouts, and the dude's stuff is electric. I mean, I think there were some questions whether or not he could sustain that over a full season the year afterwards, but he did exactly that. 32 starts he made, 186 innings pitched, 223 strikeouts, just five less than Skubal. A 3.14 ERA, a FIP of 2.99, 4th in the Cy Young voting, and an all-star. That's quite a good year, and there's no reason to think he can't do it again. He's going into his age 27 season. I think he can absolutely do it again. He finished 4th last year in the voting. I really wouldn't be surprised if he finished higher. Here's where it gets a little bit interesting, though. 3rd place, their choice for number 3, their number 3rd pick, did not receive votes last year because he was dealing with Tommy John surgery, and that is Jacob deGrom for the Rangers. And this is just an interesting pick to have like in their AL. If I were to choose Jacob deGrom, I think I would have chosen him for like a dark horse candidate. Because when is the last time he pitched over 100 innings? I am very interested because that's what it's going to take. There's no question that he is amazing when he's on the field. I mean, he came back from Tommy John last year and still shoved in his limited amount of time. He only started 3 games, but 1.69 ERA, and 10 2/3 innings pitched, 14 strikeouts. Sure, small, very, very small sample size. When's the last time he threw over 100 innings? All the way back in 2019. That is a very, very long time. I didn't even realize it was that long. And Man, that sucks. Man, I mean, he did pitch a full season in 2020, but it was the COVID season. Finished third in the Cy Young voting that year. And despite only throwing 92 innings in 2021, he finished ninth in the Cy Young voting, which is kind of nuts to me. But he's going to have to make more starts. He's going to into his 37 age season, and we haven't seen him throw more than 100 since 2019. Like I said, I just think it's going to be very, very unlikely. I'm interested to see how he's doing this spring. I haven't really paid attention. He's all right. Now he's only thrown 2 innings this spring. So I don't really understand why. I know they're probably trying to ramp him up slowly, but he was healthy going into the offseason. So I'm not sure what they're holding him up for. But anyway, of course, I think he could win it. The question isn't his stuff or his skill. It's how many innings he's going to be on the mound. Garrett Crochet is next on the list, their number 4 pick. And I think that's a great choice. He was in. Garrett Crochet was absolutely just insane. And he was doing it for a horrible team. The worst team in history. That's not unfactual. That is literally the worst team in history. 41 wins and 121 losses. It's like, how did they lose that many games with a guy like Garrett Crochet? Honestly, like, that doesn't make any sense to me. They had Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert Jr., and they still managed to be absolutely dreadful. But I think Garrett Crochet is an excellent pick to win the Cy Young. He had a 3.58 ERA last year, which is really understandable. I think that might be a bit inflated due to the lack of skill in the field on that team. But he had a FIP of 2.69. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy there. A 12.9 K per 9 and 2 walks per 9. That's a really, really good strikeout to walk ratio. 209 strikeouts. 209 strikeouts in 146 innings pitched. That's just a crazy, crazy amount. And dude's going to his 26-year-old season. He's another lefty. He looks like he can absolutely log more innings under his belt this year than last year. If he puts up 180 innings, I know Boston is a little bit hitter friendly, but I think he's going to have such a good year. I would not be surprised if he finished top 3, top 2, or even won it. I wouldn't be surprised. Number 5 is Logan Gilbert, and I think he's a great pitcher. Great pitcher. He absolutely could win the Cy Young, and I think he kind of had an underrated year last year, in my opinion. Fantastic rotation they have in Seattle. A very, very good pitcher's park, so that is absolutely going to help him out a bit. 3.23 ERA last year, 208 innings pitched. He's a workhorse. He is out there consistently. 33 starts, had a sub-1 whip, a .887 whip. Very, very strong season, excuse me there. But he's been a workhorse ever since he came up. Made 24 starts in his rookie year. Now, I don't know if he started the year on the big league club or got called up somewhere down the road. But look at his game started: 24, 32, 32, 33 this year. Logged the most innings he has in his career. He finished 6th in the Cy Young voting. I think it's a great pick. Absolute great pick. Logan Gilbert is the guy from the Mariners rotation they chose to put in this list. And I think he's the best guy to put in this list. And I think George Kirby could win it as well, but he has some shoulder issues right now. So I don't know if he's going to start on the IL or how much time he's going to miss, but I think Logan Gilbert absolutely has a shot to win the Cy Young. And now we go to the National League favorites. And I am not surprised at all to see Paul Skeens as number 1. I think he's probably the best pitcher in baseball right now, to be honest. I would rate him that high. I think he is the best pitcher in baseball right this second. And man, it's just, I need to watch more of him this year. I didn't get a chance to watch too much of him last year. I did see the at-bat between him and Ohtani, which was electric. But look at this line. He went 11-3, 11 wins on the Pirates. That is that's a lot of wins when you only have 23 games started for a team like that. 5.9 B WAR, a 1.96 ERA, 170 strikeouts and 133 innings pitched, a sub 1 WHIP in his rookie year. I mean, he just has it all. He just really has it all. Third in the Cy Young. Third in the Cy Young with that many innings pitched, a FIP of 2.44, so not too far off of his ERA. I would not be surprised if he won it at all and got some MVP votes. I think he could finish top 5 in the MVP voting, maybe top 3. I think if he throws 180 innings, I think he wins the Cy Young. I really do. His stuff is just that good. I know he added a cutter as well. It's just kind of nuts. He's just 22 years old. He's going into his age 23 season. Man, if I'm the Pirates, I'm trying to extend him like yesterday. And next, number 2, they chose Zach Wheeler, and he finished second last year. And it's kind of wild to me how Zach Wheeler hasn't won a Cy Young. He's been so good the last several years, last 3 to 5 years or so. And if he doesn't win a Cy Young in his career, like he's one of the best pitchers I can think about in the last 5 years who haven't won a Cy Young, or it's just kind of a shame. If you look at his seasons since 2021, 2.78 ERA, 2.82, 2023 was a bit higher, 3.61, but still a very solid season. Still finished 6th in the Cy Young that year. And a 2.57 ERA last year. He finished second, 200 innings pitched, 224 strikeouts. And I know a lot of people argued that he should have won Cy Young over Chris Sale. And I can kind of understand that. He had more innings pitched, but at the same time, Chris Sale won the Triple Crown in the National League. So I think he definitely deserved it. And speaking of Chris Sale, he's number 3 on this list. He finished first last year. Just talked about him. Like, what a comeback year, and what an amazing trade that the Braves made to acquire him. Without him, they don't make the playoffs at all. 2.38 ERA, 225 strikeout season, and the Triple Crown. I mean, what a comeback year. I think it's such a cool story. And Sale was someone who I think was probably on his way to the Hall of Fame anyway, if he just gets some more innings under his belt, even though this is his first Cy Young. And now that Cy Young is I think he's definitely a Hall of Famer. I mean, he didn't throw many innings with the Red Sox in the past 3 years at all. And in fact, in 2024, he had more innings pitched than he did since 2020 combined. I mean, he missed all of 2020, but such a good year from him. I don't know if he can win it this year again. I know he kind of had a little bit of injury, something happening at the end of last year. So I hope he got that sorted out over the offseason. Plus, he's getting a little bit older. I do think he's going to be a very, very good pitcher this coming year, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of regression there, just coming from like how little he pitched in Boston to what he did last year. It's a lot. I think he probably put a lot of stress on his body, especially of a guy his age, but I would love to see him do what he did last year. I'm a Braves fan, so I would absolutely love it, but I'm just trying to like temper my expectations of what Chris Sale is going to bring to the table in 2025. I'm still going to very, very much be excited to watch him pitch. Number 4 is Corbin Burns. Excuse me. Number 4 is Corbin Burns of the Arizona Diamondbacks. And he came in 5th last year in the AL Cy Young, his first year in Baltimore. I know there's some things under the hood, like via Baseball Savant, that doesn't look so great with Corbin Burns. I know his velocity is kind of trending downwards, but he still had a very, very good year. He's still ace level pitcher, a 2.92 ERA over 32 games started, 194 innings pitched, 181 strikeouts, which is kind of low for Corbin Burns. I know the K rate has been going down steadily also with his velo, so that I don't know if that's really something that I would put a lot of stock in. Now, if he were getting, or actually, never mind, I lied. His fastball is up in velocity this past year. So my mistake, but his K rate is down, which is what I was kind of getting at. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. His velo's up. He had a great year last year. I wouldn't worry about the K rate being low unless his fastball was still ticking downwards. Then maybe that's when I would start to worry, especially if he was getting hit a lot harder, but he's not. He's 95th percentile in hard hit percentage. I'm sorry. I don't know why I thought his fastball velocity was trending downwards each year. I think it was just the K rate that I've heard is going down each year, which is fair because 200 strikeouts in 2023, 243 in 2022, but it could be by design because his fastball velocity has kind of gone up and down. It was higher this past year than it was when he won the Cy Young in 2021. So I don't know if there's any really concern about his fastball or his stuff. Still had a very, very good year. Not like his Cy Young year, but very, very good. And I think he could absolutely win it again, especially because he's on the West Coast, which is where he wanted to be. His family's on the West Coast, so maybe that is going to just give him a little bit more energy, or he can spend all of his mental energy on the game rather than being away from his family most of the time. I think it's a good pick. I think number 4 is probably a very, very good spot for him. Number 5 is Blake Snell from the Dodgers, and it's either Cy Young or bust with Blake Snell. We've seen he's only made the All-Star team twice, I believe, and both of those. Actually, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think he's made the All-Star team. Has he? Yes. Okay, one-time All-Star, and man, he's either. Oh, what it was. Sorry. Sometimes I go off of the top of my head, but he's only received Cy Young votes in 2 seasons, and both of those seasons he has won the damn thing. So that is what was on my mind. But he had a really, really good year last year, despite really starting poorly. And I think he missed some time with a little bit of injury, but he's always a second half pitcher. And kind of like, let's look and see what he did in the second half last year. Now, he didn't have a ton of innings logged, just over 100. Look at his Savant page. It's a lot of red. It just looks like my face after I go to the beach. What did he do in the second half last year? He only logs 35 and 2/3 innings pitched before the All-Star break, and it was pretty horrendous. 8 starts, 6.31 ERA. But my goodness, post All-Star break was insane. I'm trying not to use that word so much, but I've used it a lot lately, so I'm sorry about that. But 1.45 ERA over 68 1/3 innings pitched with 103 strikeouts. That's just wild. That's a crazy second half of baseball. And overall, a 3.12 ERA, despite having such a poor first half of the season. 145 strikeouts over 104 innings pitched. And he's going to be on the Dodgers, where he's going to get so much run support. That team in general is just stacked, and he's absolutely going to add to it. I think that's a fair spot though for Blake Snell, because it is kind of like, is he going to give me the innings? Is he going to have a rough first half? If he is healthy in the beginning of the year, he has a pretty solid first half of the season. If his ERA is sitting at like a 4 by the All-Star break, it's going to be below 3 at the end of the year. It really is. That's how much of a ridiculous second half pitcher he is. And I think he's absolutely capable of winning his 3rd Cy Young, which would be kind of crazy if Blake Snell has 3 Cy Youngs, made it to the All-Star game 1 time, and has only had Cy Young votes in 3 seasons that he's won the Cy Young. That would be kind of nuts. But those are the AL and NL candidates. Let's get to the dark horses. Number 1, Joe Ryan. And I think that is a very, very dark horse. Joe Ryan is a very good pitcher. I like Joe Ryan. I hope he pitches well, because I think that Twins team can be very, very good if their lineup stays healthy. I think he had a decent year last year. What did he do? He had a 3.6 ERA over 23 games started. He strikes out a lot of guys. He had a sub-1 whip. That's a very, very good year for Joe Ryan. Expected ERA 2.87. He could absolutely win it. I think he could. I mean, there's a lot of guys that can win the Cy Young. I mean, these are like it's always fun to see guys come out of nowhere. Like Cole Reagan's in 2023. Not that he came close to winning the Cy Young because he didn't have the innings pitch, but it was like when he was making those starts for Kansas City, it was like, where did this guy come from? He was a reliever, and now all of a sudden he's a starter midseason and is looking like a potential Cy Young. So it's fun to see who people think could be the dark horse to win the Cy Young. They also have Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I don't know if I could say he's a dark horse. I think he's a great pitcher, but I don't know if he's on that level of like being the dark horse to win the Cy Young. If he won the Cy Young in 2025, I'd be like, all right. I'm not totally surprised. I think it's maybe I'm a little surprised, but I'm not like blown out of the water. He had a great year last year in his first year over from Japan. 3 ERA over 18 games started, 90 innings, 105 strikeouts. Very, very, very good pitcher. I think he could absolutely win it. And Hunter Brown could be an interesting one, though. That's who they have for their number 3 dark horse. And I know he had a couple of really, really good months. His season, I think he started out a little bit shaky, but he ended up doing pretty well. His body of work looks really, really good, really, really strong. And you take a look at his Baseball Savant page, it looks pretty red. Not that that's the only thing you should be looking at. Preface that. I just like looking at that just to get a glimpse of, what kind of stuff this guy has at face value a little bit. Maybe not at face value, but sometimes I'm not the best with my words, so I apologize. But what kind of year did he have last year? Yes, he had a great second half, which is kind of what I thought off the top of my head. He had a kind of a rough first half, a 4.39 ERA over 98 and a third innings pitched, but the second half, a 2.26 ERA over 71 and 2/3 innings pitched, 74 strikeouts. Very good year. He's a guy I would be like surprised about if he won the Cy Young, just because, I mean, it's going to seem like he came out of nowhere, even though we got glimpses of what he can do in the second half that he did last year. So that is a very, very interesting choice, and not more interesting than Bailey Ober, though, of the Twins. He's their number 4 pick. He's MLB.com's number 4 dark horse. And I do think he would kind of blow me away if he won the Cy Young in 2025. Not that I think he's a bad pitcher or anything, but it's just not a guy that I would think of. He had a great whip. He doesn't throw that hard, but he gets a lot of chase. He strikes a lot of guys out. He doesn't walk that many people. He doesn't get hit all that hard, 83rd percentile in hard hit percentage. He gets great extension. I mean, he's just a big dude. He's a big dude with a funky release point. 6'9". He's 6'9". He's a tall dude, but he finished last year with a 3.98 ERA. So it's not like he's screaming Cy Young, but if you're a guy who has a 1.00 whip over 178 and 2/3 innings pitched, maybe he should be like a little bit on your radar a little bit more, or a little bit more on my radar. What was his FIP though? What was his FIP? I'm just interested. I'm very interested at this point. I mean, that's a really, really underrated year. 3.82. So it's not like he got unlucky, but it is kind of interesting how that low whip translate into, I mean, I guess it's not a crazy ERA, 3.98, but if you see a whip like that, I'm thinking like, 3.5, maybe 3.2, something like that. But he is going to be 29. He has been pretty good for the last couple of years. So maybe there's more in the tank. Maybe he has a breakout season. Not that he hasn't broken out or anything, but that brings me to the last choice of their dark horses, Jared Jones from the Pirates. And man, he was kind of lighting the league on fire at the beginning of last year. I had no idea about this guy until he was throwing about like 100 miles an hour in the first half of the year. Now, he didn't end up too well. I know he spent some time on the injured list. He only logged 121 and 2/3 innings pitched, which is still a respectable amount of innings. 132 strikeouts, 119 WHIP. What did he do in the second half is what I'm kind of looking at. He had a really, really rough second half, and that's when I think he missed most of his time. Well, obviously, he only had 30 and 2/3 innings pitched in the second half with a 5.87 ERA. So I don't know if he was still. When did he miss that time? I guess he missed it in July and August. He only had one start in July, one start in August. So maybe he was still a little bit bothered by what was going on in September, but he was kind of going off before the All-Star break. 3.56 ERA, 98 strikeouts, and 91 innings pitched. Was that his rookie year? That had to have been his. Yeah, that was his rookie year. I would have really hated myself if I had just heard of Jared Jones this past year and he pitched like 50 innings in 2023 or something. But I do think he is capable of winning a Cy Young. I don't know how likely it's going to be, but a dark horse I think is fair. I think it's absolutely fair, especially when you consider his teammate is Paul Skeens, which doesn't really matter for Cy Young voting. It's not like they're going head to head in a battle or something. But even if they were kind of like trying to outdo each other, I think that is a pretty healthy competition for teammates striving to make each other better. And I think that's really solid. He could definitely win it. I'm just excited to see all these guys pitch a full year. And up next is the AL East preview. And Pacoda Projections has the Boston Red Sox finishing 5th in the division with an 80.3 wins. And I think that's kind of wild considering what type of offseason they had. They had a pretty good offseason. Last minute, they got Alex Bregman to play third base. They traded for Garrett Crochet. They traded, I think it was Braden Montgomery, Kyle Teal, and someone else. But who else did they lose? They lost Tyler O'Neill to the Orioles, division rival. They lost Nick Pivetta. They lost Kenley Jansen. They lost Chris Martin, Danny Jansen, Luis Garcia, Reese McGuire, Garrett Cooper, and Lucas Sims. So quite a bit of people they lost, but I mean, bringing in Alex Bregman sure helps. They also brought in Walker Buehler, and they'll get Lucas Giolito they'll get back from injury. He had Tommy John. He's going to come back at some point. They do have Quinn Priester. They got him in July of last year in a trade. I totally forgot about that. They have Richard Fitz. They brought in Aroldis Chapman also on a free agent deal, a 1-year deal. Same thing with Justin Wilson. And Liam Hendricks should be coming back from his Tommy John surgery. So they do have quite a bit of guys who weren't around last year, but they were on the team. And going through the lineup, I mean, from top to bottom, you got Jaron Duran, who had an amazing season last year. Rafi Devers keeps just mashing. You got Alex Bregman playing second base, Tristan Casas playing first base, Trevor Story. Let's see if he can come back from injury. Masataka Yoshida at the DH position. Rob Refsnyder penciled in at right field right this second. Connor Wong, catcher, and Ceddanne Rafaela in center field right now. I really like this lineup. I like the top half especially. I do wish that they would put Bregman at third base. I know Rafi Devers says he wants to play third base, and even if he was going to play first base, where would Tristan Casas go? He'd probably go with the DH, and that would mean Masataka Yoshida would be on the bench or in the outfield somewhere, and he is a pretty awful hitter, or a pretty awful fielder, so it makes sense that he's going to be their DH. Now, I doubt this lineup is going to look the same here in, I don't know, maybe a couple months. I think that there's a very, very good chance that Roman Anthony could make his debut with the big club like very, very early on in the season. And that would mean maybe Ceddanne Rafaela would go to right field, Roman Anthony play center field. I think that would make this lineup very, very dangerous. I mean, not that it isn't dangerous already, having Jaron Duran, Rafi Devers, Bregman, and Casas. And Trevor Story is healthy, that is a very, very good top half of the lineup. Ceddanne Rafaela, I mean, he's kind of, he's very, very young, very young. Having him as your 9 hitter, I mean, that's pretty decent. I think he had a pretty, I mean, not amazing year last year. 0.9 WAR, 79 WRC plus, not the best. Slugged 390, on base percentage 274. So that's pretty low. I mean, Connor Wong had a pretty good season. His OPS last year was right below 800. On the bench, they have Carlos Narvaez, Romy Gonzalez, David Hamilton, Nick Sogard. I mean, it's an okay bench. It's nothing crazy. It's actually, I mean, I would rather have Rob Refsnyder on the bench. I'd love for them to start out with Roman Anthony in the outfield. I think that would give the Red Sox so much life. And going to the rotation, you got Garrett Crochet, who we talked about earlier, Tanner Houck, Walker Buehler. I would love it if Walker Buehler could come back and just be a decent innings eater at least. I mean, he doesn't need to be what he was at the peak of his career, which I think has passed. I also can't believe he's going to be 31 in a couple months. That's crazy. You got Quinn Priester and Richard Fitz at the back end of that rotation. But the thing is, they got a lot of guys on the shelf right now. Brian Bayo's on the shelf. He's got shoulder soreness. Cutter Crawford's on the shelf right now, or maybe not on the actual IL, but they are on the projected injury list per Fangraphs. Cutter Crawford. Lucas Giolito was always going to, or he is going to be starting there with a strained hamstring. Chris Murphy's there. He's recovering from Tommy John that he had earlier last year. Patrick Sandoval had Tommy John in the internal brace in the middle of last year. So Murphy, Sandoval, you're not going to see those guys till later this year, if at all, especially in Patrick Sandoval's case. Cutter Crawford gave you a really, really good first half last year. Brian Bayo is very, very young, very, very promising. And Lucas Giolito, we all know that he has had success in the past. What's he going to be like when he comes back from Tommy John surgery? And I mean, I do think he has potential to be, I mean, not like all-star level or something like that this year at the very least, but it's going to be interesting to see what we can get from him. In the bullpen, you got Liam Hendricks. You brought in Aroldis Chapman, Justin Slayton, Garrett Whitlock, Greg Weissert, Justin Wilson. Brought in Michael Fulmer, actually, too, non-roster invitee. I totally forgot about him. You also have Wilyer Abreu on the, or not in that starting lineup because he has a viral gastrointestinal illness. I don't mean to laugh at that. It's just something I wasn't expected to see. But he had a pretty decent year last year, so I imagine he would take the place of Rob Refsnyder. Rob mashes lefties, so I think that's a perfect guy you have on your bench. And when it comes to the over-under, I just honestly can't believe that they went 80, or that the Pacoda has them at 80.3 wins. What did they do last year? They went 81-81 last year, and I don't think they got worse. I definitely don't think they got worse. I think they got a lot better. I really do. I would not be surprised if they ended up winning like 85 games or so. I really don't. Like Brian Bayo last year had a 4.5 ERA. Nick Pivetta, who they lost, had a 4.14 ERA. Of course, you're going to miss Pivetta a little bit. You're going to miss Kenley Jansen. You're going to miss Tyler O'Neill and his bombs. But at the same time, maybe you bring up Roman Anthony. I know you got Christian Campbell, like top of the prospect list. Roman Anthony that we just talked about. Marcelo Mayer, also a top prospect. Looks like he's going to be coming up very, very soon. So there's guys that can come up soon. Maybe you get a healthy season of Trevor Story or a semi-healthy season of Trevor Story. You didn't get that last year. When he was on the field, he wasn't amazing. He wasn't bad. But if you get a full season of what he was last year, I would say that's a pretty big win, considering you did not get a ton of good production from your shortstop position last year. I know there's Vaughn Grissom. He has not been what they thought they would get when they traded Chris Sale to the Braves. But I'm hammering the over on the 80.3 wins. Like I just don't think there's any way they got worse. I just don't think there's any way they're going to finish fifth in this division either, to be honest. There's a couple teams I would have ahead of them as far as finishing fifth, and I think Boston's absolutely a threat to win this division. I honestly think that everyone in this division can finish with a plus a winning record, or right at 81, right at 500, the last couple teams in this division, which is kind of nuts. But next, they have Tampa Bay finishing with 82.1 wins. And I don't really think they did anything this offseason. Who did they lose? What did they lose? They didn't lose much. They lost Dylan Carlson to Baltimore. They lost Chris Davinsky. They lost Tyler Alexander and Colin Poche. They really didn't bring in too much. They did bring in Danny Jansen, Danny Jansen, single, one S, no S actually. Danny Jansen. And I think they are going to be pretty solid. I think their bullpen is going to be really, really solid. I think their rotation can be decent. They didn't really bring anyone in though this offseason. They had a very, very quiet offseason. That's really the key free agent they brought in the offseason was Danny Jansen, who had a decent year last year, or is projected to have a decent year this year. Did not have such a great year last year, a 206 average, OPS sub 700. I mean, I'd be interested to see how he does this year. I think Yandy Diaz had a little bit of a down year last year. Brandon Lau had a little bit of a down year last year. He hit 244, 21 homers. I mean, I think that actually that's kind of on par with what he usually does. What did they do last year? How did they finish last year? They finished fourth, 80 and 82, which is, I think that's kind of the level that I would put them at this year. I mean, Yandy Diaz kind of had a decent year, but not quite the year he had the prior year. They lost Isaac Paredes. They traded him in the middle of last year, who's having a decent year with them. Randy Rosarena, same thing. They traded him last year, so they are missing those two. They lost Jose Siri in the middle of last year, I believe. They traded him, to the Mets. They do have Christopher Morel now, who's going to be penciled in as their left fielder. Going from the top of their order to the bottom, they have Yandy Diaz, Brandon Lau, Junior Caminero. I think I'm very excited to see how he does. I know he's had a pretty big spring, I think, if I'm correct. Let's see. What is he doing this spring? Junior Caminero. I know he had a really good, I think he played the Winter League last year. I mean, when he played last year, he did solid. OPS plus of 105 as a 20-year-old, which is kind of crazy. He's hit for a lot of pop this spring, 3 homers. OPS is 899, 200 average, 259 on base, but he's slugging the hell out of the ball when he makes contact right now. So that top 4 of the lineup, including Josh Lowe, who, excuse me, sorry, he had a bit of a down year last year. So maybe he can bounce back a little bit. If he gets back to his 2023 form, I think he can be very valuable to this team. I mean, a 98 OPS plus isn't horrible. It's right around the average, but you'd like to see what he did in 2023, 20 homers, 32 stolen bases, 128 OPS plus, 835 OPS, 500 slug. That's a hell of a good year. So he's entering his 27H season. If he can replicate that from his 2023 season, that would be huge. Christopher Morel has got a lot of potential. He's got a lot of power potential. He's not so great in the field, and he's very inconsistent when it comes to making contact. He strikes out a ton, but who knows? Maybe the Rays can tap into something there. He had a negative WAR last year, a sub 200 batting average, OPS plus of 80. I think the Rays are really counting on a lot of guys to bounce back a little bit. I mean, if Josh Lowe, if Christopher Morel can get back to his 2023 year, he had a 122 OPS plus that year, 26 homers. He just strikes out a ton. 159 strikeouts last year and 535 at bats. You'd like to see that go down a little bit, especially if his OPS was 634 like it was. But he's young. Josh Lowe is young. There's plenty of time for these guys to turn around. You got Jonathan Aranda at the DH, whose baseball savant page looks really, really good. His OPS was over 700 last year. Johnny DeLuca and Taylor Walls rounding out the bottom of the order. On the bench, you have Ben Rortvedt, Curtis Mead, who might be the best spring training player I've ever seen. He was like a really big prospect at one point. But did not have a great year. 65 OPS plus last year. He's still crushing it in spring. This guy is hitting 615 in spring right now with a 1.447 OPS, which is crazy. It's spring training, but still it's fun to look at. He's going to be 24. And on the bench, you also have Jose Caballero and Richie Palacios. In the starting rotation, you got Shane McClanahan returning from Tommy John surgery. I hope he's playing pretty well in spring. I'm kind of interested right now. So I gotta look that up. I gotta look that up right now. He's started 2 games, 4 2/3 innings pitched, 5 strikeouts, not allowed to run, only 1 walk, which is really, really good. Not giving up a homer. His whip is 1.071. Again, it's spring training, but I mean, just seeing that he's out there pitching, he's getting some strikeouts. It's very nice to see, especially if you're a Rays fan. You got Taj Bradley, Ryan Pepio, Zach Littell, Shane Baz, and Drew Rasmussen. Only one of those guys pitched more than 150 innings last year. That was Zach Littell. He had a 3.63 ERA. Ryan Pepio had a 3.60 ERA, and Taj Bradley had a 4.11 ERA. Pepio 130 innings, Taj Bradley 138 innings. I think this rotation does have potential, especially if Shane McClanahan can come back healthy. I feel like the Rays bullpen is always nasty. Pete Fairbanks kind of had a down year. It was an interesting year for him. I feel like he had a lot of blown saves. It seemed very often we were seeing Pete Fairbanks have interviews, like post-game interviews for like on Twitter, just him saying some interesting things, like not in a bad way or anything like that, but just very sarcastic, very funny things. How many blown saves did he have? He had 23 saves last year. I can't see how many blown saves? I don't know. I can't find it right now. I'm such a noob. But anyway, I do think this is a little bit of a question mark of a Rays team that we've seen in the last couple of years. I mean, Yandy Diaz is getting up there in age. I think Brandon Lau is going to be 31. I still think he has like 30 homer potential in his bat, maybe even more. I think there's no doubt about it that Junior Caminero is going to be a stud for that team. But I do think there's just a lot of question marks. Like, is Yandy Diaz going to continue to kind of regress a little bit, to decline a little bit? I don't think it's necessarily a given, but is Josh Lowe true? Is what he did last year what he is? Can he get back to his 2023 self? Danny Jansen kind of had a rough year last year. Jonathan Aranda, what's he going to give you after, like, with a full season? Christopher Morel, what is he going to bring to the table as a left fielder? Even Johnny DeLuca, what's he going to give you? Last year he had barely a 600 OPS. Taylor Walls, same situation, a 183 average, barely above 500 OPS. So I just don't know about this lineup and even the rotation. I love Shane McClanahan. I really like a lot of these guys, but there's just so many questions. I feel like Zach Littell, Ryan Pepio, those guys don't jump out at me, but at the same time, they could be very, very good. So we're sitting at 82.1 wins for the Rays. And last year they won 81 and 81. I hate that I'm going to do this, but I'm going to go the under. I think this is one of the weaker Tampa Bay teams that we've seen, even just like on paper, in a long time. You don't have Randy Arozarena there. He's been a staple of that team for the last several years. Tyler Tyler Glasnow is obviously a Dodger now. He was a Dodger last year. Man, I just don't know. I think that's where I'm going to have to land. I don't like that too, because I feel like I'm going to eat my words, which I'd be happy to eat my words. I think that, like, I'm not afraid to be wrong. I want to be wrong a lot of the times, but I just don't think they are. I just don't think they're better than the 82 wins. I think they're right at 80. I would love to be wrong, though. I would absolutely love to be wrong. But next on the list is the New York Yankees, finishing third in the PECOTA standings. Right now, I'm recording this March 14th, by the way. I don't think I've said that. But right now, PECOTA has them at 84.8 wins. And last year, we all know they went to the World Series. They won the AL East. They finished 94-68. Great season. But there's a big reason why they were very, very good last year and have a decreased wins total right now for the PECOTA projections. What did they do this offseason? Well, the big thing is that they lost Juan Soto. They lost out Juan Soto to their neighbor, the New York Mets, signed one of the biggest contracts in baseball history. I think the biggest. Yes, it is the most expensive contract in MLB history with the New York Mets. That is going to be so interesting to watch play out the next several years. They lost Gleyber Torres to the Detroit Tigers. They lost Clay Holmes. Alex Verdugo has yet to sign. There's a chance that, who knows, maybe they'll want to sign him. They did re-sign Jonathan Loaizaga and Tim Hill. I think Johnny Lasagna is hurt though. He lost John Birdie, Tommy Kahnle, Tim Meza, Anthony Rizzo hasn't signed anywhere. Also lost JD Davis, Lou Trevino. But they also they did bring in some pieces. They brought in Cody Bellinger from a trade from the Cubs. You brought in Paul Goldschmidt to play first base. You brought in Alex Jackson via trade, and Dominic Smith is a free agent. He's listed to be on the bench. You brought in Max Fried too, another big signing. Big signing. And you got Devin Williams. You traded for Devin Williams from the Milwaukee Brewers. You also got Brent Hedrick in the bullpen, traded for Fernando Cruz from the Cincinnati Reds. However, there are major questions with some key players. Luis Gil, Rookie of the Year last year. He is out for the better part of the season, probably the first 3 months at least, with this strained lat. You just lost Garrett Cole to Tommy John surgery. Those are two big pieces that are not going to be playing major roles this year. Who knows if Luis Gil will even see the mound this year. I feel like those strained lats can evolve into a much longer timetable situation than just like what their initial assessment is. DJ LeMahieu, he has a strained calf. It doesn't look like he's going to be hitting or playing anytime soon. Granted, he is almost 37 years old. Giancarlo Stanton, a lot of elbow issues in both arms. As of right now, he has not had surgery, but he is saying that if he has to have surgery on these elbows, it will be season-ending surgery. So that is kind of a big deal. And if you look at this lineup, going from top to bottom, you got Austin Wells, catcher, pretty decent. Had a decent year last year from what I recall. 13 homers, above 700 OPS, 229 average. I mean, out of a catcher, that's not terrible. Plus, he's pretty young. I think it was his first full season. It was his first full season with the team. He got a big, I mean, probably the best player in baseball right now, at least the best hitter in baseball this year or right now with Aaron Judge. And yes, I was correct. This is his first full season, OPS plus of 103, 2.5 WAR. That's a pretty decent year. Aaron Judge, like I just said, best player in baseball right now, in my opinion, or at least best hitter in baseball right now, in my opinion. Best player would still go to Shohei Ohtani. You brought in Cody Bellinger, who's going to play center field. What are we going to get from Cody Bellinger in New York? I do think I mean, he had a decent year last year. I think he has the potential to have a really good year this year in New York. He had a 2.2 WAR last year, 111 OPS plus. That's a lot better than I originally remembered. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be that dude from 2023 with the Cubs where he had 139 OPS plus. He actually received MVP votes, won a Silver Slugger that year. That kind of blows my mind. I do think he's probably more just in between his 2023 and 2024, which is still a very, very good player. So I'm hoping he can kind of get to that, stay at that level. I mean, but after that, I mean, Paul Goldschmidt, I know he finished strong last year, but man, he's going to be 38 in the latter part of this year. Is he going to be able to stop from declining any further? You got Jazz Chisholm at second base, who I think could be very, very good. He had 24 home runs last year, stole 40 bags. He played very, very well after he came over from Miami in that trade. Anthony Volpe, is he going to turn his career around with the bat? I know he's extremely young. He's a very, very good shortstop. He's not shown that much promise at the plate, however. But if he can keep what he's doing at the plate and still play a ridiculously good shortstop like he's doing right now, then I do think he's going to be a very, very good player. Jason Dominguez, the Martian. We've all been waiting for him ever since he took Justin Verlander deep at the end of 2023. He missed all of last year pretty much with coming back from Tommy John surgery. And when he did play, it wasn't great, but I mean, it's a very small sample size, 67 plate appearances, 5 stolen bases, 2 home runs, an average of 179. We can just look the other way at that stat line, to be honest. Ben Rice, he had a really good game, a good game. He had a 3-homer game, if I recall correctly, but the rest of what he did was not great. Oswaldo Cabrera, not amazing, bottom third of that lineup, and some question marks too with Paul Goldschmidt, Anthony Volpe. I mean, Austin Wells, I don't know why he's leading off via Fangraphs. I know he's not going to start the season leading off or at any point leading off, in my opinion. I don't think so. I could be wrong. I'll happily eat my words. I think just Aaron Judge needs to stay healthy. Jason Dominguez really, really needs to live up to the hype, and Anthony Volpe needs to take steps forward with the bat, and Cody Bellinger needs to just find his form between what he did in 2024 and 2023. He just needs to keep at that level, even if he just stayed at the level that he was last year. I think he's a very valuable player. I think I have more issues with this pitching rotation. I think that's what's really going to hold the Yankees back right now. I mean, losing Garrett Cole is huge. I mean, he's a Cy Young winner. Losing Luis Gil is huge. He was Rookie of the Year winner last year. Max Fried is a great pitcher. I watched a lot of him with the Braves. I don't know if he's like an ace level guy. He's not going to strike. When I think of an ace, I think of a guy with very, very good stuff. That's not to say that Max Fried doesn't have good stuff. He has very, very good stuff, but it's not like strikeout. It's not strikeout stuff. It's not K per 9, 10 plus stuff. A very good pitcher. I think he's going to pitch well in that ballpark. He gets a lot of ground balls, which is what you need at Yankee Stadium, because the ball, it's a short porch. It's a very, very short dimensions to either foul pole. Carlos Rodon, what are you going to get from him? He had a better year last year than the year before by a pretty decent, by a pretty good margin. But is he going to improve on that? He had a 3.96 ERA, a 1.9 WAR, B-WAR, 195 strikeouts and 175 innings, though. The year prior to that, he was probably the worst pitcher in baseball, 6.85 ERA. So I think if he does what he did last year, he's a decent pitcher, but I don't know if he's a number 2 guy. Marcus Stroman is penciled in as third in this rotation, and 2 weeks ago, he was getting asked questions about if he was okay to be in the bullpen. So that is how quickly this rotation has gone from Marcus Stroman looking on the outside in to him potentially being the number 3 or 4 starter on this team, which is kind of nuts. You got Clark Schmidt, who does have potential. He had a very, very solid year last year in 85 innings, 2.85 ERA. And then Will Warren, who did not really have a lot of time, 22 innings with an ERA over 10. So this rotation is what I have questions about. And I think very, very rightly so. But I do think the back end of the bullpen is good. The bullpen overall is going to be iffy, I think. I mean, Devin Williams is arguably the best reliever in baseball. So having him as your closer is extremely good. Very, very good. Luke Weaver, very good year once he started to be their closer. I mean, 84 innings pitched, 103 strikeouts in 84 innings pitched. That's a really, really good season. Can he do it again, though? He needs to be able to do it again. And then you got Ian Hamilton, Fernando Cruz, Tim Hill. Tim Hill was actually a really, really fun story for them. He had a 3.36 ERA, only 31 strikeouts and 67 innings pitched, but still very, very good. Mark Leiter Jr. didn't have a great year. Yoendris Gomez, not a big sample size, and Brent Hedrick, not a big sample size either, claimed on waivers from the Minnesota Twins. I don't think this is a strong bullpen overall, except for Devin Williams and Luke Weaver. I know Ian Hamilton can be very good. I hope he is very good, but the bullpen as a whole, the pitching staff as a whole, has a lot of question marks. So that is just where I am on the Yankees. I think they just have so many questions. And I mean, you need Aaron Judge to do what he did last year and in 2022, and he cannot miss too much time. I know he's been healthy the 2 of the last 3 years. He's played basically a full season. And I know in 2023, he missed 60 games, maybe? I don't think that much. I don't think he missed that many games. How many games did he miss? He missed about 50 games in 2023. But the Yankees are going to need him now more than ever if they want to get back to the World Series or like a deep playoff run in 2025. And I mean, Aaron Judge is getting up there in age, so there's not, I mean, I don't know how much prime he has left. I hope it's a long time. I really do, because we're seeing something special with Aaron Judge with what he did in 2024 and when he broke the home run record in 2022. He's just a special player, and we need to appreciate that more. I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube, I mean, look at how much black ink is on this Baseball Reference page. It's just insane. But when it comes to the over-under, 84.8 wins, man, as of right now, man, I'm gonna have to go the under. Do I? Oh, man, I don't know. Oh, this is such a good line. This is such a hard decision. 84.8 wins. I don't know. Hold on. Give me a second. You don't have Garrett Cole. You don't have Stanton. There's a lot of question marks in the lineup, but I like what they did overall this offseason after they lost Juan Soto. Oh, man, this is tough. I changed my mind. I'm going the over. I think they're going to win like 85 games. I just don't think they can have a losing record. I really don't. I think there can be a lot of positives on this team, despite losing Garrett Cole, Luis Gil, Stanton. I do think Volpe will probably take a step forward. I am excited to see a full season of Jason Dominguez. I think that's the guy who I'm really who really made me choose the over last second, because a full season from him could be really, really fun to watch. But anyway, I'm going to hit the over, but it's not going to be by much. I wouldn't be surprised if you see them win 85 games, 86 games, maybe 87 in their current state. I'd happily eat my words. Not like I'm a Yankee fan or anything. I'm not a Yankee fan, I guess. But anyway, the top two they have for PECOTA is very interesting to me. They have Toronto next with 85 wins. And they had a season from hell last year. They really did. It was just not pretty. They won 74 games, 74 and 88. It was rough, man. I got some good friends who are Blue Jays fans. It was tough to see their tweets, man. It really, really was. And what is different with the Blue Jays roster this time? You didn't really lose that much, just Jordan Romano and Genesis Cabrera in the bullpen. You brought in, though, Anthony Santander. You traded for Andres Jimenez. You got Miles Straw on the bench. You brought in Max Scherzer for the rotation. Brought in Jeff Hoffman in the bullpen. Jimmy Garcia re-signed him, or I guess they traded him, or wasn't he on the Blue Jays? That's neither here nor there. Brought in Nick Sandlin, also via trade with Cleveland. And man, now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, I really like what they did this offseason, and which could be a very, very big, important season for them, because Bo Bichette's going to be a free agent after this year. Vlad Guerrero Jr. is going to be a free agent after this season, despite him wanting to extend or offering, or the Blue Jays offering an extension or trying to extend him. Going from top to bottom in their lineup, got Bo Bichette, who we just talked about, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Anthony Santander, George Springer, Dalton Varsho, Alejandro Kirk, Andres Jimenez, Ernie Clement, and Joey Loperfido, who they brought in by trading Kikuchi to the Astros last year. I kind of like the upside of this lineup, actually. I don't think Bo Bichette is anywhere close to what he was last year. He was horrible last year. He was probably hurt, though. I mean, he was hurt. He was out half the season. His OPS was barely above 600, but he led the league in hits like 3 straight years before last year. Vlad Jr. was amazing last year. OPS over 900, probably the best first baseman in baseball last year. Anthony Santander, 44 home runs. You got him from a division rival in Baltimore. George Springer has been going downhill, but I mean, there's still potential there. He hit 19 home runs last year, stole 16 bags, still plays a pretty good outfield too, in my opinion. I actually saw him live. Not that this one game matters, but man, I saw him track down a couple balls that were just like, man, I feel like I should watch this guy a little bit more. Decent. His range is very, very average. He's still semi-fast, 72nd percentile. But Dalton Varsho, a hell of an outfielder. If he can bring the bat around a little bit more than what he did last year, if he can get you 25 bombs, 15 steals, where he's at average up to 230, OPS of 750, you got yourself a hell of a ball player right there. Alejandro Kirk. I mean, this is a guy who I believe won a Silver Slugger a couple years ago. He mashed a couple years ago. I think it was 23. No, it was 2022 when he had an OPS plus of 127. The years after that, he's failed to reach an OPS plus of 100. So I'm leaning towards that he's more of a player like he has been the past couple years. But I mean, the potential is still there. Andres Jimenez, a hell of a second baseman. I believe he won the Platinum Glove, if I'm correct. Ernie Clement had an okay year. Doesn't really get on base, but I mean, he's got a little bit of pop, gives you some stolen bases at third. And Joey Loperfido, who has potential. I think he was one of Houston's top prospects before he came over. On the bench, you got David Schneider, Miles Straw, Will Wagner, son of Billy Wagner, and Tyler Heineman. I mean, I do think there's upside with this lineup. And the rotation, the top end of the rotation is decent. I mean, I don't know if you really have an ace anymore. Like Kevin Gausman is getting up there in age. He didn't have a great season last year. Jose Barrios had a decent year. Chris Bassett had a decent year. Max Scherzer, I mean, how much more we got in the tank? He did not pitch much last year. When he did, he was pretty decent, 3.95 ERA. Bowden Francis had a really, really strong year in 103 innings pitched last year, a sub-1 ERA or a sub-1 whip with a 3.3 ERA. I like this rotation depth if everyone stays healthy. I don't know about the top end talent. I don't know if Kevin Gausman's a number one, or I don't think Jose Barrios is a number one either. I think Barrios is a great number two, maybe number three. Chris Bassett, I mean, they're going to give you innings. They're all the top three, Gausman, Barrios, and Bassett, are very, very durable. But have we seen the best that they have? I don't know. I hope not. Bowden Francis, I mean, that was his rookie year, I believe. Not that this matters, but I was very surprised that he was almost 29 years old. That's an old rookie. I guess he had 36 innings pitched in 2023, so I would be lying, I think. But can he do what he did last year? I hope so. I do hope so. His FIP was 4.36 though, so I don't know how confident I am. Their bullpen looks really, really strong though as well. Jeff Hoffman was great last year. Chad Green's very, very good. Jimmy Garcia is decent. Nick Sandlin had a good year in Cleveland, although he does walk a ton of guys. Brendan Little, Zach Pop, Tommy Nance, and Yariel Rodriguez. I do like the back end with Jeff Hoffman and Chad Green, two really, really good pitchers. Jimmy Garcia is pretty solid as well, but man, I don't know. Overall, I just don't know. I think it's really hard for me to really judge a bullpen on paper just because relievers are so volatile year in and year out. It's tough. It's tough. I mean, the best of the best relievers are good consistently, but occasionally you'll have guys with kind of a stinker year, like we saw with Camilo Duvall last year. That's just one example. And I don't know. I don't feel amazing about the bullpen, but I do like Jeff Hoffman and Chad Green. Oh man, as much as I want to believe in this team. I want to believe in this team, but I just don't know, man. I just don't know. I do believe in Bo and Vlad, especially Vlad. I'm interested to see how Bo does. I love the bringing in of Anthony Santander. I just can't believe Baltimore didn't try to re-sign him or sign him this offseason. I like Varsho. I think they have a lot of guys who are very good in the field and questionable with the bat, i.e. Dalton Varsho and Andres Jimenez. We've seen Jimenez hit before. We've seen Varsho hit before. I hope they do a little bit better than they did last year. I think if those two do a little bit better at the plate than they did last year, if Bo improves, I mean, I don't think there's any question that he's going to have a better year this year than he did last year because last year was so horrendous. If Vlad and Anthony Santander do what they did last year, I think there's a chance. But they had such a bad year last year. I don't know. I think I'm going to have to go the under. I think 85's a lot. I don't know how many innings Scherzer's going to get you. It seems like Kevin Gausman is kind of declining a little bit. He's also getting up there in age. Barrios is decent, but he's not like a top end dude at the rotation. And Gausman's savant page from last year looks rough compared to what it was in 2023 and even 2022. I just don't know. Strikeouts were way down last year. 181 innings pitched, 162 strikeouts in 2024. Compare that with 185 innings pitched in 2023 and 237 strikeouts that year. I just don't know. I want to believe, but I think I'm going with the under for Toronto, which is unfortunate. But I mean, even if it is under, they're better than they were last year. I still think there's a chance that they could do it, but I think there's a chance that anyone in this division could win it. But I do think the Blue Jays are most likely to finish either in 5th or 4th. My 2 cents. That's what I think, unfortunately. Next, though, Pagoda is predicting the Baltimore Orioles to win the division with an 88.5 wins and 73.5 losses. Now, they finished second in the AL East last year with a 91-71 record. They got smoked in the playoffs. They looked horrible in the playoffs against the Kansas City Royals, like absolutely dreadful. And you lost some big pieces this year. You lost Corbin Burns. You lost Anthony Santander. Jacob Webb's gone. John Means, I mean, he hasn't pitched a lot for you over the last couple of years, but he's a Cleveland Guardian now. Lost Craig Kimbrell. Eloy is a Tampa Bay Ray now, which is kind of crazy. I did not even realize that on a minor league deal. Lost James McCann, Danny Colom, Jacob Webb, Matt Bowman. Who'd you bring in, though? Like, now that young core is so good. Who'd you bring in? You brought in Tyler O'Neill, which I think Tyler O'Neill is a great pickup. I do. You brought in Gary Sanchez. You brought in Ramon Laureano. I mean, those two are not going to be in your starting lineup. You brought in Charlie Morton, who's listed as your number 2 starter in the rotation. And you brought in Tomoyuki Sagano from Japan, who looks like he could be pretty decent. But man, I just don't know why the Baltimore Orioles did not want to spend money this year. They have this young core. I think I'm going on a full-on rant right now, even though I don't think I should. But you got this young core with Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holiday, Jordan Westberg. Who else? Cedric Mullins. I guess he's not that young anymore. Colton Cowser. Man, it is just like now's the time where you got to spend some money. But anyway, like going through this lineup, Gunnar Henderson is shortstop. Catching is going to be Adley Rutschman. Center fielder is going to be Cedric Mullins. Jordan Westberg at third base. Colton Cowser in right field. Left fielder Tyler O'Neill. I think that's a great pickup. Ryan O'Hearn at the DH. Ryan Mountcastle at first base. And Jackson Holiday listed as your number 9 hitter, which I don't think he'll be there forever. On the bench, you got Gary Sanchez, Ramon Laureano, Heston Kierstad, and Ramon Urias. Ramon Laureano. Which one did I say? I don't remember. But here's where, like, I really like this lineup. Gunnar looked amazing last year. He's finished third in the MVP voting, I think. 37 home runs, 281 average, an OPS plus of 159. Yeah, 21 steals. I mean, he had a great year. MVP 4. Adley Rutschman had a very, very strong first half last year. I believe he got hit on the wrist with a pitch. I don't remember if he was batting or if he was catching. I believe he was catching. He got hit in the wrist with a foul tip, and he just was not the same afterwards. Like, let's look at these splits. Pre-All-Star break, 275, 16 home runs with a 780 OPS. Post-All-Star break, there had to be something going on. He only hit 207, only hit 3 homers with a 585 OPS. That is not who Adley Rutschman is. It's just not. He also had a pretty big disparity against righty-lefty splits. Only 219 average, 631 OPS against righties, and a 902 OPS against the lefties. So pretty big disparity there. But I believe in his wrist injury was holding him back. He's 27 years old. He's hitting his prime. So I'm hoping he was healthy. He got healthy this offseason, and he'll be back to his pre-All-Star break self, which is like one of the best catchers in baseball, at least like top 5 in my opinion. What's he doing this spring? He looks pretty good this spring. 375 average with a home run, OPS approaching 1,000. I know it's only spring training. I've said that so many times. I will continue to say it. Also, Cedric Mullins. I mean, we've seen what he's got the last couple of years. I don't think he's that all-star we saw back in 2021 or 2022, whichever year it was. He had 18 homers, 32 steals last year. I mean, he's pretty consistent. He stays healthy for the most part. And I mean, he's got some decent value to bring to the squad. Jordan Westberg had a really, really strong season when he was on the field. I think he could do it again. I would love to see him healthy for a full year. Colton Cowser was rookie of the year runner-up. Had a fantastic year. Strikes out a lot, but he still had an OPS plus of 123, 24 bombs. A very, very good year. Would love to see what he does afterwards. Tyler O'Neill had a fantastic year in almost, I don't want to say limited appearances, limited ABs, because I mean, he got 473 plate appearances, but 31 home runs. Geez, sorry. OPS approaching 850. Now, they did move their left field fence in, so hopefully he will hit for that amount of power or close to. I know he was in Boston, which is a lot different left field than in Baltimore last year with that extended wall. I'm glad they brought it in. Ryan O'Hearn had a very decent year too. Last year, 15 homers, Hope he has a little bit under 800. Ryan Mountcastle had an okay year. Would love to see a little bit more, though. Jackson Holiday had a rough time. He did. There's just no way around it. He had a very, very rough time. Sub 200 average. I mean, he probably needs to struggle, though. He hasn't struggled at all in his brief minor league, major league career, except, well, major league career. He's only struggled. Excuse me. Geez, my throat is so dry right now. But I really do like this lineup. However, losing Santander hurts. Tyler O'Neill always finds his way on the injured list at some point. I hope he doesn't. I also have him on my fantasy team, so that's another reason I hope he doesn't. But anyway, Gunnar, and I think Adley will be better than he was last year. I hope Gunnar Henderson stays the same. Hope Cedric Mullen kind of does what he did last year. Jordan Westbrook, if he does what he did last year over a full season, that's very valuable. If Colton Cowser takes a step forward, if Ryan O'Hearn does what he does what he did last year, Jackson Holiday takes a step forward and improves. I mean, he's only 21, so he has all the time in the world. I do think this is a very, very good lineup. Maybe the deepest lineup in the AL East, I think, if things go according to plan. I mean, you got Heston Kierstead on the bench too. I mean, he's a very, very good player. One of their big prospects over the last several years. Here's where I have problems. Their starting rotation is very, very bad. It's such a poor starting rotation. Jeez, excuse me. Sorry. Zach Eflin is your number one. He is not a number one. You have Charlie Morton penciled in as your number two. I love Charlie Morton. He cannot be your one or two on a potential division winner or a team that wants to go far in the playoffs. He just cannot be your number two starter. He just can't. You need to do better. You lost Corbin Burns. Replace him with Charlie Morton, Tomoyuki Sagano. I don't know much about Tomoyuki Sagano, but he's 35 years old. And this is going to be his first full season in the bigs. And he's in your starting rotation. I don't know about that. They could have done more. They should have done more. I don't know what they're waiting on. Are they waiting on the free agent market of next year, of 2025? I don't know. But their rotation is weak. It's very, very weak. And I like the back half of this bullpen. I like Yenier Cano, Felix Bautista. He's going to be coming back from Tommy John surgery. One of the most dominant pitchers I've ever seen. Just try to hit him in MLB The Show. You can't. Sir Anthony Dominguez has upside. I don't know if I like the rest of this bullpen. Cionel Perez has had some decent success, but he walks a ton of people. Gregory Soto walks a ton of people. Albert Suarez was a great story last year. I think he's better off in the starting rotation. I forgot to mention Cade Povich. I know he's like kind of a big time prospect or a bigger prospect that Baltimore has had. He did not do well last year in his time played. Got Dean Kramer, who in the rotation. Sorry if I'm going all over the place. I'm just kind of like fired up about the Orioles right now. 4.10 ERA over 129 and 2/3 innings pitch. He's a decent pitcher, man. He really is. But he's a guy that needs to be on the back end of the rotation. And Cade Povich is a guy who needs to still be in the minors if he's putting up a 5.2 ERA. And Tomoyuki Sagano, he could be like a long reliever right now. I mean, maybe that I might be unfamiliar with his game. In fact, I am, because I do hear that he has been very good this spring training, like very, very good. And he was a very, very good pitcher over in Japan, but not like a big strikeout guy. Maybe I'm just ignorant and unfamiliar with his game. I know he has an ERA of 1.67, but 111 strikeouts, 156 innings pitched. His K per 9 is 6.4. I just don't know how well that's going to translate. And I think I'm not mad because they signed him. I'm mad because, like, I think it's kind of a question mark. And if you're going to rely on someone, like, they just needed more help by proven talent in the majors. And I mean, he's 35 years old. I'm probably just being ignorant at this point, but still, like, it's just, I don't know. And for him to be penciled into the right rotation along with like Charlie Morton, Dean Kramer, and Cade Povich, who have question marks, obviously. And Zach Eflin's not an ace. He's a very good pitcher, but he's not an ace. I just don't know. They did bring in Andrew Kittredge, which was nice, but he had arthroscopic knee surgery in March. So I don't know when he's going to be back and how effective he's going to be. He's also 35 as well. You got that's not to mention how many starters they have on the injured list. Like Grayson Rodriguez, he's going to start out on the injured list most likely with elbow inflammation. We all know what that means. There's a good chance he's going to get Tommy John. Kyle Bradish, you're not going to see him at all. He got Tommy John in June last year. Trevor Rogers, you got him in a trade from Miami. He was awful last year. I'm just very upset. And I don't mean to sound like I hate Tomoyuki Sugano. I do not at all. I'm a little bit unfamiliar with his game, but I'm just more upset about the Baltimore Orioles not trying harder. Like, I know Corbin Burns was never going to re-sign with them. I know that. He wanted to be out west, but I just wish they would have done more. Like, I wish they would have gone after Max Fried. They could have done that. But it seems like they're going in the wrong direction, and I just don't like it. I wish they weren't, because I really, really love this young core with Adley, Gunnar, Westberg, Cowser, Holiday. I really like this young core of hitters, and it just sucks to see them kind of like turn their back on their pitching, on their starting rotation in specific. And I would love nothing more than for Tomoyuki Sugano to like finish top 5 Cy Young, or Charlie Morton to throw 170 innings with a 3.5 ERA. I would love that to happen, but it's just like, you can't bank on that. And I just wish they would have tried more. But anyway, so I think y'all know where I'm going with the over under 88.5 wins. I'm hammering the under. I just don't think they're going to win. They won 91 games last year. I don't think they're only 2.5 games worse. I mean, losing Santander and Corbin Burns hurts. I know you replace those homers with Tyler O'Neill, and Adley's probably going to get better. Holiday's probably going to get better. But at the same time, like, you're probably going to, at this point, I think Tommy John might be coming for Grayson if he's having elbow problems right now, or like how much time is he going to lose out on the injured list? I mean, I just don't know. I think we're going to have to go with the under for Baltimore. And who do I think is going to win the division? I honestly think the Boston Red Sox could win this division, but I think this division's up for grabs. I would not be surprised if any of these teams win the division. It is going to be a dogfight in the AL East, and it's going to be fun to watch. It really is. And I can't wait to be wrong about every single thing I just said in this whole hour of their preview. But anyway, that's the end of this episode. Next episode will be the AL West preview, and maybe we will do like the 2025 MVP selections, because MLB.com did a similar article. We went over the Cy Young article. They did a similar article for their MVP picks, so maybe we'll go over that. Anyway, thank y'all so much for watching and or listening on whatever platform you're listening or watching on. Make sure to hit that like, follow, or subscribe if you want to see more episodes like this. And just let me know what I can do better. I would love to keep improving these, and I'll see you next time. Peace.